I want to start with some NFL, and in fact, I want to start with exactly 4 words for you today. Broncos country, let's ride. All right, so on the one hand, as corny as that clip may have been, you know Bronco fans are playing that corn on a loop right about now. You know why? Because earlier this morning, Wilson and the team agreed to a 5-year contract extension worth a reported $245 million with $165 million guaranteed. Bank account, let's ride. Accountant, let's ride. Financial planner, let's ride. Corny as hell, but rich as hell. As always, the reported money and the reported guaranteed money in particular are not necessarily what they appear. We know this. But either way, we are talking about stacks and stacks and stacks. And that 5-year extension means that Wilson is scheduled to be, check that, scheduled. You weren't ready for that, were you, Alvy? He is scheduled to be with the Broncos for the next 7 seasons. That means Denver just signed up for a lot of winning and potentially a lot of strange bedroom voice videos.
Hey, Seattle.
The fact that Russ signed a massive extension in Denver is no surprise. Nor is it a surprise that they locked him up before he even played a game. You don't need to see this guy in a Broncos uniform to know how good he is, especially given what we have seen in a Broncos uniform of late. Lest we forget, this is who Denver has run out there for you Bronco fans the last few years. Brock Osweiler, Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, Brock Osweiler again, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, Brandon Allen, Jeff Driscoll, Brett Rippon, that wide receiver, Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock again. You go through that string of has-beens and never-weres, and I'm surprised that they didn't just hand Russ a blank check and tell him, fill it out yourself, Russ. As many zeros as you want, Russ.
We got a deal.
We do have a deal. Something else, you don't give up what they gave up to get him. You don't give up 5 picks, including 2 firsts and 2 seconds, to get Russ and then let him explore free agent market after his current contract. And you do not suffer through the quarterbacks that they have suffered through since Pinky the Duck Slinger left. And then let a guy like Russ potentially walk. You know, and as always, one of the questions when you have a contract like that is, what does it mean for the quarterback? What does it mean for the Broncos? And the answer is honestly, not a hell of a lot, not a hell of a lot, because in a guy like that, you don't need to worry about what you're going to get in terms of preparation and play itself. You know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get from Russ. What you now know also is that he's going to be there, and he's going to be there for a long time. He doesn't have to live up to this. He already has. Yes, it is a lot of money. Yes, it's a lot of guaranteed money. But I've got no problem with it. And I've got no problem with the team making the commitment to him for as long as they did. Because you know that money and those expectations and that pressure are not going to change this dude. We know who and what he is. He knows they brought him in, not just to get to the Super Bowl, but to win a Super Bowl and maybe more than one. That was the goal from the very day they brought him in. The contract does not change that. That to me is key. The contract does not change the guy or the expectation or the pressure. It just gives him more time to get it done. So they were always going to sign him to a big deal. The only question was, how big was it going to be? And the answer is pretty damn big. Pretty damn big. But to me, what's really important here is still not nearly as big as Deshaun Watson's deal.
Well, of course.
If anything, the Broncos got off easy on this one. And if anything, the Browns look even dumber right now than they did when they first signed the unapologetic sexual harasser to that massive guaranteed contract. That deal that the Browns gave Deshaun Watson was outlandish at that time, and it gets more deranged with every passing day. We're talking about Russell Wilson, a 9-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champ, a guy who has 113 regular season and postseason wins in his first 10 years, the most in league history. Whether you love this guy or you hate this guy, whether you think this guy is cool or corny as hell, he has not been accused by 24 women of sexual harassment or assault. And he just signed a contract with $65 million less in guaranteed money than the guy who was those other things, is those other things. $65 million less guaranteed. And for all we know, Wilson's $165 million may not be guaranteed. Maybe not all of it. But in Watson's case, we know it is. All of it is guaranteed. Every penny. And not only is it guaranteed, but it's structured so that he won't lose much money this year when he's suspended for 11 games for his predatory behavior. Hell, they probably gave this guy a couple of bonus mil after that disastrous press conference a few weeks back. You know, another way of looking at this, Russell Wilson had a ton of leverage. A ton of leverage in his contract negotiations with the Broncos, given what he's done in the past and what they gave up to get him and what he means to the organization, and he still didn't get anywhere near the guaranteed money that Deshaun Watson did. Which to me is like the most insane thing ever. I will never get over that. I'll never be able to wrap my head around that. Somehow Watson, who was facing dozens of lawsuits at that time, had the hammer in the negotiation with the Browns. Either that or the Browns grabbed the hammer and decided to beat themselves over the head with it repeatedly. If you look at the list of quarterback contracts by guaranteed money, you've got guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. They're all clustered between $141 million and the mid-160s. And then you've got Deshaun Watson at $230 million guaranteed. In other words, he is secretariating the field. If Secretariat had been accused by predatory or accused of predatory behavior by dozens of therapists. And sure, it seems like any quarterback since then who's gone looking into negotiations, looking for a Watson deal, has been laughed out the room. You know what they're pretty much being told? Like, agents and players want to point to that as, hey, yeah, that money, that's the precedent. That's the standard. That's the bar. Except that's not what's happening. They're pretty much being told, no, that's not a precedent. That is stupidity. That is Cleveland being stupid as hell, and the other 31 teams aren't doing that. And do not confuse that with collusion. That's everybody else saying we would never do something that stupid. In other words, you cannot use that as a precedent. That's not a precedent. That is stupidity. And you cannot use it in your negotiation because we're not that dumb. And neither is anybody else or any of the other teams.
That's what we're going to do.
$65 million less for a guy who's accomplished so much more, who's never been accused of anything like that.
Joe Smith.
Wild.
If he was
Cleveland
Joe
looks
Smith.
dumber by the minute. Hey, in Denver, cool, corny, whatever you want to call it. Let's ride. Let's ride. It's corny. He's good, though. Great player. Great leader. Tremendous work ethic. And will not be affected by the money, the expectations, or the pressure. And they gave up a hell of a lot to get him. And given the scrubs they've run through there, they don't have to worry about anything for a long time except keeping this guy healthy.